Another lovely Saturday morning. Many thanks for keeping a date with us on the program Politics Today on Independent Television and Radio with Sonny Duke Okosun. Today on the program, we'll begin with the planned strike by the organized labor. Of course, you know labor that has three centers, the NLC, the TUC, and the ULC. In spite of court ruling to that effect, they are insisting that they must go ahead with the strike come Tuesday next week. But what is the underlying issue behind this controversy between the government and the organized labor? Minimum wage. That's been raging in the last couple of years. We'll talk about that. We'll also look at the certificate issue as it relates to the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari. Just yesterday, we saw WAEC presenting a certificate to him, which some say has raised further questions as far as that issue is concerned. Today on the show was more to talk about, but let's quickly meet our panelists. I'd like to thank very especially the erudite Professor Mike Omegberale from the University of Benin. Prof, many thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you.
I also have with us in the studio a constitutional lawyer. I'd like to thank very especially Chief Barrister A.B. Thomas. Many thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning to viewers at home.
Okay, let's look at the demands by the organized labor on minimum wage. What labor is saying, 30,000 naira is the least they would expect. The government is proposing 22,000 naira and a few fractions. Some state governors have already given their indication to pay whatever is agreed upon. But labor is insisting unless government hits to the demand of 30,000 naira minimum wage, they will go on strike. Let's begin by looking at this issue. Is this what Nigerian workers need right now, against the background that even what has made the minimum wage, some states find it difficult to pay and pay regularly? We've seen series of bailouts upon bailouts, and these outstanding salaries and allowances are still there. So I want to get your take on. Let me begin with you, Professor Omegberale.
Thank you very much, Sonny Duke Okosun. Minimum wage. The country, the Nigerian workers, there is a big problem in this country. It's a system failure. It's arising from a complete system failure. That is what we are experiencing right now. 30,000 naira, 22,000 naira 500 as proposed by the Governors Forum, 18,000 naira. What can that one buy for any Nigerian? What can? If you even go, if by stroke of luck tomorrow, government says 30,000 naira, it still will not be enough. Because you and I, the organized associations in the market, the landlords, the transporters, all of a sudden they say, we have a 30,000 naira now. And for no reason at all, they increase everything in the market. The landlord will increase the house rent, transporters will increase, not because there's a commensurate increase in the production of goods and services. Okay. So at the end of the day, what do you find? The 30,000 naira still will not be enough. So that is why I say it's a system failure thing. That isn't the problem. The problem is not the minimum wage. The problem is the purchasing power of the minimum wage. On 50,000 naira still will not be enough for the average Nigerian. So the major issues need to be addressed, which is the cost of living in this country, the pervading poverty around the country. Those are issues that need to be addressed. Okay. Yeah. I'll come to you. We'll espouse on it.
Okay, I'll come back to you. Barrister A.B. Thomas, is this taking any political undertone against the background that this is a year before the 2019 election?
Yes, definitely there is some political undertone. The federal government wants to make a capital out of the issue of minimum wage by saying we've increased minimum wage to 22,500 or 30,000 as it may be. But they've forgotten that the problems confronting Nigerians today is not an issue of 30,000 naira. Divide 30,000 naira by 30 days. It gives you 1,000 naira. What will any human being in Nigeria of today do with 1,000 naira? You can't feed yourself with 1,000 naira for breakfast. In fact, if you even talk of 100,000 naira today, it's still going to be unreasonable. Why do I say so? Prof has just said that when you say there is increase in minimum wage, that increase is going to be taken away by inflation. It's going to be taken away by other social, economic factors. The landlord is going to increase his rent. The woman selling in the market is going to increase the cost of goods and products in the market. In fact, the worker will be worse off. So the political benefit the federal government is thinking of reaping from any increment in minimum wage would have been wiped out. It would make the workers poorer. When we had 18,000 naira as minimum wage under the previous government, what was the cost of a bag of rice? 8,000. So if you increase it to what the governors want, 22,500, bag of rice is already 20,000. Are you going to use the balance 2,500 to transport one bag home?
After buying it.
After buying it. Is there an increment? So that has to do with the political, economic aspect of my argument.
Okay.
My second point is that the federal government has no business negotiating with organized labor on minimum wage. That is why we need to restructure this country. When you are talking of a federal system of government, every state don't need to pay the same thing as the next state. Edo State has no business paying the same minimum wage as Lagos State or Rivers State. Ondo State has no business paying the same thing as Edo State. Then labor moves to where they can get their value for their services. That is what we call a federal system of government. What we are practicing now is a militocracy, whereby the government sits down and begin to drop from the sky downwards a straight line. And that creates more problems. I received a visitor from Port Harcourt recently, and we were buying something near the market. Her exclamation was, "Oh, in River State, this thing is cheaper than this." So how do you create the same minimum wage for Edo and Rivers?
River State, okay.
So government has no business whatsoever dabbling into minimum wage, except they are going on with this their military mentality of giving an order from top down.
But Saibi Thomas, let's not try. Let's.
No, I am just telling you.
The point I'm making is that you recall that before now we also had an increment to 18,000 naira as minimum wage. Yeah. Those who did that, they didn't have any military background or whatever.
That's
so
what I'm saying.
let's not picture it.
When we are talking of federal government, I'm talking of not a person.
Okay.
I'm talking of government.
Okay. Okay.
I'm not talking of a person.
Okay.
If federal government decides to go into minimum wage for the whole country, it is wrong. That's what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because that was the military mentality of the past. And that is why people are clamoring for restructuring, to allow each state develop at its own pace. Now, why are we even talking of minimum wage for Nigerians? When there are other areas, we can even get enough money to pay each worker 200,000 naira a month.
Okay, let me pause you there, because I'm going to raise that question as we get along. But I'd like to get more thoughts from you against the background that this has become a thorny issue. I mean, the organized labor, they are not threatening now. They've insisted that they will go ahead with the strike come Tuesday next week to press home their demand. Yes. But do we have the resources to meet this demand? Does the country have the resources to meet this demand?
I can't tell you for a fact, because I don't have the statistics, if the country has the resources to meet the demand. But what I can tell you for a fact is when you don't provide information when you don't provide figures, statistics to back up your inability to pay, people put their own information there. That is one of the problems in this country. The government, everything the government does is so secretive. Nobody knows anything that is happening in this country. And so you have people with varying theories. Today, you have the social media is abuzz with different theories on different issues in this country because nobody is open. Okay. But just a quick one. When the government has not done what it's supposed to do, that's why I say it's a system decay. Why? In any civilized society, business 101, the government doesn't provide jobs for anybody. It's not the place of the government to provide jobs for anybody. Ask any business teacher, any political scientist. The government just creates the enabling environment for business to thrive. Infrastructures are in place. Everything, loans, facilities, the economy, or whatever. That is the job of the government. And once those things are in place, jobs, you and I become entrepreneurs. Aspiring entrepreneurs, they're out there, they have the opportunity, and they create jobs for the teeming youth. But those things are not in place. We have security problems, food problems, economic problems, all over. And so as a result of that, of course, investors are scared to come into the country. On the contrary, we have investors fleeing the country. So the country is poorer for it. That is why, what the government should be doing, if just to reiterate what my friend said here, government has no business with it. If you do the right thing, you don't have any business.
Just create the enabling environment.
Just create the enabling environment.
And you think that will take care of this controversy about minimum wage and what is payable?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah, and then at the end of the day, take a look at what do we have in the country right now. State government has just sitting down. They wait at the end of the month to get their federal allocation. What are they doing to create for capacity building, infrastructure building in their states? Nothing to generate income. Look at all the states. They all just wait at the end of the month. They wait for federal allocation. And federal allocation comes. They are unable to pay 18,000 naira. They are already crying that they can't pay 30,000. And even the 18,000 naira, many of them are owing backlogs of salaries. So this, we are in this country. We always try as much as what we do. What we are very good at doing is taking care of the symptoms. Not the problems. Let us start by taking care of the problems. Not the
all right. So
now,
as an
adjunct to what Mike has just said,
yes,
we have the resources.
We have the resources.
We have the resources to pay. Now we have 109 senators. Do you know how much each of them takes at the end of the month? We have 360 people in the House of Representatives. Do you know how much each of them collects? The Nigerian Labour Congress, the GUC and all that, they should not be talking of minimum wage. They should extend the issue of minimum wage to National Assembly.
A reduction in salaries.
Reduction in salaries. Reduce the salary of a member of House of Reps to 250,000. Reduce that of the senator to 300,000. And see how many people will still be in Abuja.
Yes.
Then the money you are going to recoup from that angle can be spread among the workers in Nigeria. That is why our politics is a politics of investment. Sell your house to campaign. Why the majority, those in power in Nigeria, they are less than 1% of the population of Nigerians. And this less than 1% of people in power in Nigeria that consumes about 90% of our revenue or recurrent expenditure. A senator is moving in the street, he goes with 5 cars. Who fuels the 5 cars? Federal government. They have the money. If you look at the cost of maintaining governance in Nigeria, it is higher than the cost of maintaining governance in the United States of America and Britain. That research, I have the figures in my phone. And diplomacies, who you are supposed to serve, are the ones begging you for minimum wage. Minimum wage for what? No government in Nigeria has been bold enough to publish how much a senator takes home.
Yes. information.
Like he said, lack of information. But the reason why they won't tell you is that if they tell you how much a senator takes home, many people commit more, there will be more suicide in Nigeria. People,
there's no correlation. I'm sure you're just.
You are saying 30,000 naira a month.
Yes.
What can 30,000 naira do for me in one day?
So, in your own opinion,
what
would be the ideal minimum wage?
My brother, the ideal minimum wage is let every state go and sit down, discuss with their workers. This is what we can produce.
Okay.
This is our income. Then the workers in that state will discuss with the state government on what they want as minimum wage. What this issue of minimum wage and the constitution we are operating in Nigeria is making states idle. Awolowo introduced minimum wage in 1958. Cocoa was the mainstay in Western region. When Midwest was created in 1963 by plebiscite, Midwest relied on rubber, cocoa, palm produce.
Yes.
The first television house was built by Awolowo, not with federal allocation, but with what the region was able to produce. The first TV house, the first stadium. The states are idle now.
They are idle.
Let the states, let us have a restructured Nigeria. Let each state produce what they can produce, whether it is agricultural, export, and pay tax to the center.
Yeah.
In that case, the state, the workers in the state knows what is coming in. Then they cannot be able to negotiate with the state government what they can get.
Okay, even at what is currently coming in, there's a feeling that some of the state governors can actually meet the workers' expectation. If you
definitely.
People have talked about security votes, which has been a very contentious.
I was coming to that. I was coming to that point.
Yes.
Okay. Now somebody collects 60 million as security vote every month. What is he doing with security votes? Federal government says they are in control of the police. There is no state police. What is the governor doing with 60 million naira as security votes? So these are the issues of structural, restructuring, and ability to meet whatever minimum wage every state will want to get.
Okay,
it is the fact that this country can actually meet 200,000 naira monthly. We can meet it
as minimum wage
if we just allow all Nigerians to be equal.
Prof, do you subscribe to that? 200,000 naira minimum wage.
I still come back to the basics.
Okay.
You get 200,000 naira minimum. What is the purchasing power of that 200,000 naira minimum wage? You are still looking at the symptoms. Let us look at the problems.
Okay.
A few years ago, Ghana, what happened in Ghana here? You could to get money in Ghana, the bills, the cedis, you're talking about tens of thousands or whatever. Today, it's almost as par with the US dollar. The purchasing power of one cedis, of $1. Let's come back to that. Do the right thing.
Okay.
The government should do the thing. Reduce inflation. The economy, since we came out from recession, the worst economic recession this country has, that is if we have even come out of it anyway. Because I was laughing, if we have even come out of it anyway. But if you look at the indices of growth, very low. If we have even come out of it at all. Nothing is happening in this country. What is the purchasing power? Government needs to create. We have to keep on reiterating that.
Yeah.
That enabling environment, because that is the primary duty of government. It's not your job to do that. It's not my job to do that.
Okay, I'll pause you there.
Yeah.
If you just join us, you're watching Politics Today on independent television. I also say big thanks to all our listeners on radio. The show is a simulcast, but you can also follow us using any of our social media handles scrolling on the screen. Shortly, our studio lines will be open, so you can also call and be part of the conversation. Well, let's take it a little bit higher. Just on the 2nd of November, that was yesterday, the West African Examination Council presented certificate to President Muhammadu Buhari, which was widely celebrated. I'm sure because from the last general elections till now, there have been controversies surrounding the certificate of Mr. President, and perhaps to lay to rest finally, he was presented a certificate. But some have said it has even made things worse because several questions are now coming to the front burner. Some are making accusations and counter-accusations. But let me come back to our panelists here in the studio. Barrister A.B. Thomas.
Yes, thank you. I'll be very...
Is this issue settled?
It's not settled.
Okay, but also know that you've got to be careful with your choice of words.
I will be careful, but it's not settled.
Okay.
It has even made it worse. You are giving Mr. A certificate, a purported certificate of exam he did in 1961, which is 2018 picture. How do you explain that? To who do you explain that in the street? That a man you say wrote exam 1961, it should be his passport of 1961, not 2018 picture. That's one. The Nigerian Army Public Relations Officer, the Brigadier General, said in this man's file, there are no qualifications, no papers, no certificates in his file. Where is wire coming from now to produce a certificate? PPRO said the system of admission of students into the army at that time was through selection
and recommendation.
And I have been telling people there is a difference between a certificate and a testimonial. What the PPRO said was that the principal of the school, where our dear president came from, wrote a testimonial that this man can pass English, can pass Quranic studies, can pass Islamic things. The man never said there was a certificate. So if he did not have a certificate before going into the army, yes, it is true, he went for higher courses in America, in Britain, and so on. This should remain WAEC certificate. Where is the certificate coming from now? In 2018, in 2007, he presented no certificate to INEC. In 2011, he presented no certificate to INEC. In 2015, he presented no certificate to INEC. Where is WAEC getting this one now? You see, they are in an attempt to help me. You are damaging me the more. They would have just kept quiet and rely on that part 2 of the Constitution that makes it easy for any driver in the government service who has served government for 10 years, any driver, to contest as president. It says if you have been in government service.
Is that cumulatively or maybe just?
Cumulatively for 10 years.
10 years.
You can contest. So a driver in Ministry of Works can contest. I'm talking legally from our constitution. Don't bring a certificate at all.
Let me pursue that. I'll come back to you, Prof. Yeah, you are in the academia.
Yes.
Yes. What does this portend in this whole debate about the president's certificate?
Well, I'm very, very passionate about a system working very well, and which is why sometimes I weep. I feel so bad when I see things happening in our system. That is the continue.
Yes, just go.
So when I see things going on in our system, that rather than portray us in a positive light, it becomes an embarrassment.
Okay.
What was the essence of that ceremony, the presentation of certificate? It wasn't necessary. But again, talking about the system working, we need to do the right thing. A matter of keeping public records. Certificates should be a matter of public records, especially for somebody in public office, whether it's a governor, commissioners, If you are holding a public office, everything about these individuals should be for public records. Any person can access that information anytime, any day. If Nigerians were able to access these records years back when he was coming in, we will not be where we are today. We won't be where we are today. And as my friend has said, in trying to write the thing, things have, probably even gone from bad to worse. Certificate. Are we presenting a certificate, or you are presenting a testimonial? Or an attestation. If it's does it ever happen that when you misplace your certificate, or your certificate is destroyed or whatever, you get a fresh one? You don't get a fresh one. That is a lawyer, you get swear an affidavit, and the issuing body will give you an attestation of that. Yes, you actually were part of this program or whatever, and this is. And something.
But Femi, additional, the special advisor is saying that this is an attestation to the fact that. Yes, I mean, he stated that on his Twitter handle.
But what we have is a certificate. And the man presenting that certificate is from WAEC.
Yeah.
Did he write the WAEC exam this year? Mind you, Mrs. Kemi Adeosun,
the former minister,
for presenting a fake NYS certificate, she resigned. And she was escorted to the airport and flew out of Nigeria to London. Senator Adeleke, who purportedly wrote exams in 2017, is now being prosecuted before a federal high court for exam malpractice in Abuja. The man who presented a certificate should be prosecuted. Where did you find this one? Look, I have just said one thing. Forget certificates. You have been contesting with that certificate. Go and contest with that certificate.
So why now?
Why now? Because foreigners are looking at us. They are not looking at the bad light. They are mocking you.
The image of the country is.
The image of the country is being dented.
Yes.
If you were able to contest, INEC, close your eyes. Because there are two sets of laws operating in Nigeria right from time immemorial.
Okay, let's not even go into that. Just want us to zero in on
this issue of certificate. Look at it on the screen now. Look at it on the screen.
No, but let me just say that we can't independently. This was available in several platforms, so we can't independently verify this one. But this was available, and in this one that you see, you can see the pictures
in
there.
1961.
In 1961.
In 1961, I think I was 5 years old.
Okay.
So if that picture in the certificate is there, how old was he in 1961? No, we must ask questions, because the foreigners will travel, they will ask you. You cannot write an exam in 1961 and have a picture of 2018 superimposed on your certificate.
Absolutely.
It's wrong.
Prof, in the academic system, there's what you call honorary certification that is usually presented to people of notable standing.
Absolutely.
I mean, isn't this what is probably playing out now?
Absolutely not. Absolutely
really?
not. Absolutely
So tell us more.
In the university, I'm in the University of Benin. Incidentally, I'm a member of the ceremonial committee. Convocation is coming up in a couple of days' time. If you have distinguished yourself in the society, you have contributed immensely to humanity. The Senate of the university, on the approval of council, sits down, goes through your CV and what it is that you have done. They say, oh, this to appreciate what it is all that you have done. So let's confer on him an honorary degree of this university. Could be what we call honorary causa.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. You must have really distinguished yourself in your chosen area, your profession, or you must have served humanity. But this is totally, absolutely, they are worlds apart. Just a quick one. Where are we in the university? Of course, we have had cases of situations where students or those who graduated from the university, over time, probably due to some unforeseen circumstances, unfortunate incidences, such as including fire or robbery or whatever, they would have their certificates, misplaced their certificates or stolen or got destroyed. They come back to the university. University doesn't issue them a fresh certificate. We'll give them an attestation that they can present anywhere.
And this is not an attestation.
No!
I saw, but a certificate.
It's a certificate.
Okay.
So it's my 11-year-old son asked me yesterday. You see, this, apart from the foreign bad image we are garnering for ourselves, my 11-year-old son asked me yesterday. He said, Daddy, when I write exam now, when I'm already old, will they come and present me a certificate? I said, please, ignore what you are saying there.
Well, just a quick one.
Okay.
What can we make of the managers of Mr. President in terms of dealing with issues of this magnitude against the background that it's generating more issues?
There are two issues to it.
Okay.
The managers of the media of Mr. President are suffering from two angles. One, confusion. In an attempt to make something straight, and you know you cannot make it straight, you cannot bend crayfish, then you want to bend it and you break it. That's what they're doing. Then number two, the average Nigerian don't resign, no matter how bad the situation is. As long as the money coming from there is enough to take care of you and your generations, you won't resign. Now, they are saying these things, they don't care what Nigerians, how you feel.
Yeah.
My pocket is number one. I'm not interested in what you think somewhere else. So they don't resign. And these people, they will soon live there one day, and posterity will judge them.
Absolutely.
In addition to that,
Yeah.
the inability of your aides, your managers, to tell you the truth, and you also accept the truth. Because one thing is when you surround yourself with people who do not have the capacity, who are afraid to tell you the truth. This is this is the scenario that plays out. Because the truth, they say, can be bitter, but at the end of the day, you are better for it.
Absolutely.
These individuals who surround the managers, as we have put it, they cannot just afford to tell their principal the truth for fear of losing their benefits, the perks of the offices, and who knows, the principal may not even want to hear the truth.
Absolutely.
And then it asks them to leave. Just a slight digression is what is currently going on in the United States. Sarah Sanders is White House secretary. You see things going wrong, but everything she says, she's not telling the truth. She's just playing the card of Mr. President. I just said that was a slight digression. And that's basically what we find among our political elites in this country.
Okay.
Nobody wants to hear the truth. And even when someone tells you the truth, and then some other person who's probably a big shot or a family friend or within that circle, either politics or whatever, tells you something contrary, the man you have paid, that you are paying every month to manage you, to manage your publicity, to manage your affairs and everything, you disregard what it is that he has told you.
The first dean of law, University of Benin, when I was a student there, is there with Mr. President, dean of law, a professor. You have a new son who was a civil activist, a senior advocate. He's there. They should have advised, look, you don't need the certificate. Go to part 2 of the Constitution. It says anybody who has worked in government for 10 years. So a mechanic in Ministry of Works can take advantage of that section of the Constitution and become a president.
Okay. It's still politics today on independent television and radio. Our studio line is 052-290-573. And you can also tweet at us at ITV Radio NG. Post a comment on our Facebook page, facebook.com/ITV Radio NG. We'll definitely take a look at it in the course of the program. Just before we open our studio line so you can call, let's look at the issue of candidates list that seems to be tearing the ruling party apart. I mean, 2 governors are at loggerheads with the incumbent chairman of the party, and that's talking about the governor of Imo State, Rochas Okorocha, and Ibikunle Amosun, and of course, Comrade Adams Ashomale, the APC national chairman. I don't know where all of these will lead the party to, but let me just quickly get some thoughts from our panelists here before we start taking your calls. Yeah.
You see, the moment they did a National Working Committee Congress before the convention itself.
Yeah.
The president was at that meeting, and the president told them that he has been advised by lawyers as to what was the proper procedure to adopt. As soon as the president left the place, the National Working Committee changed the tone. I knew they would definitely get into trouble. They went for convention. Rather than putting the question, those who favor the president to be the sole candidate say, ah, yes, it was never put. Those who say no, nay, it was never said. I knew they were already building problem for themselves. Now, the third point I'm trying to make is this. When they finally came out with their guidelines, they said the states were at liberty
to choose direct or indirect primary.
Direct or indirect. And the following week, they added consensus. So, you gave the governors liberty as the political party head in the state to do whatever they liked.
So you should have accepted it. Is that what you're saying?
That is what the National Committee should have accepted, what they themselves gave to the powerful governors forum. But now that you have now made a U-turn,
that's where the problem is.
That's where the problem is. Now, Amosu's group in Ogun State, which is my state, said, look, we adopted a system whereby we use delegate system. And you are saying you sent another group from Abuja, the national chairman sent that group to conduct another direct election. The governor says no. Okorocha wanted his hereditary governorship by having his own son-in-law to become governor in Imo State, thereby making it hereditary. He anointed his son-in-law.
It's not hereditary.
Okay. He wanted his son-in-law.
Yes.
They went on and said, yes, the son-in-law is the governor. Only for the National Working Committee to make over U-turn to say it is now Hope Uzodinma. Yes. What it will lead to for them, they should forget my state, Ogun State. They should forget Imo. Because I can't see how the governors can be persuaded at this 11th hour to work honestly, assiduously, and faithfully for APC.
Aren't the governors asking for too much? Take, for example, in Imo State, the governor wants to be a senator. At the same time, wants to install his son-in-law as the governor. I don't know what you mean.
The same in Ogun State.
Yeah. The same thing in Ogun State.
Ogun State, yes.
Sonny, it's marks of the impunity in this country. I don't have any apologies. Okay. You know, both when we feel very, very, sad. Every facet of this nation, be it economy, be it the political facet of this nation, is infused with so much impunity. And that's exactly what is going on. Let the people decide. Let the people of Imo State decide. You cannot impose your, according to my friend, hereditary. Let the people be the one to decide. You have been there for 8 years. You have done your bit. Yeah. Step aside. Let the people decide.
Okay. Restructuring was a pre-2015 major issue, pre-2015 general election. Yes. But that seems to have fizzled away. What do you think may have happened?
What happened was this. At the time Jonathan conveyed the national conference, APC refused to take part. And while Jonathan was campaigning and talking about who should implement the issue of the report, whether it should go to National Assembly
or not,
or whether it should go through a referendum, APC came up and said, look, we didn't take part in that restructuring because we are going to do our own restructuring, which was one of the promises, several promises they made. Nigerians, whether it is true or not, I don't know, many of them were interested in a change, thinking there was going to be a positive change. And some people said, oh, Jonathan was too slow. He could have implemented the National Conference report on, which was basically on restructuring and resource control. If it was really slow, I don't see that it was slow because he was going into election year. And he thought he would be able to come back, then push it to the National Assembly, who are the real representatives of the people. If those ones were to say no, then he would have pushed it as a referendum. But since there was no continuity, and APC came in, now APC...
That's the new government now.
That's the new government came in.
Yeah.
APC had also campaigned that was okay, we will also do our own restructuring. Now they have forgotten about restructuring. They're not interested in resource control. So we are back to square one. But the report of the National Conference is in the presidency. It can still be used by any government that comes, because that was the most representative conference we have had post-independence. So the reports are there. It is those who are afraid of restructuring, those who are afraid of resource control, who are making it impossible to have those reports implemented. Okay. If those reports were implemented, it would have become easy, because the 6 geographical zones would have been producing
at their own capacity, at their own level, at their own pace.
At their own pace.
Okay.
There would have been development at their own pace. Then it would have been easy for mobility of labor. If I feel that South-South is paying 500 naira a month, South-South can attract the best hands from Northeast or Northwest. Then Northwest and Northeast will be encouraged to find more mineral resources or more agriculture to produce so as to have more money. Because it's like these universities you are saying now. If University of Benin can pay, if we're not having a fiat, a salary structure, if University of Benin, which I call Unibest, I'm sorry, I went to that university, Unibest. Okay. If Unibest can pay 100,000 and another university is paying 50,000, you expect the best brains to go to Unibest. That is how a federal system of government ought to work.
Okay, so restructuring, Prof, what are your thoughts? What's your take?
I happen to know very close a friend who was part of that
conference.
Okay. And I've had extensive discussion with him. He was very, very instrumental. And he has given, of course, coming from him, and of course, having seen that it is one of the best things that ever happened to this country. But why? It's just like, you know, I will always come back to the system. That's everything being wrong in the system. Huge sums of money was expended, both human and capital. At the end of the day, the report is sitting somewhere gathering dust. That is a report that would have taken the country to the next level.
So we're hoping that someday that report will be revisited. This is what we call it a wrap on the program, Politics Today, on independent television and radio. We hope you enjoyed it while it lasted. We keep our fingers crossed and see what happens on Tuesday. That labor, the organized labor, has insisted they will go on strike in spite of the court ruling to that effect. And then, of course, how it plays out, talking about the certificate controversy as relates to Mr. President, following the former presentation of attestation that was presented to him just yesterday. Go to social media and see what's happening there. We'll see how all of these issues will shape 2019. And then for the ruling party, well, the onus is on them to stabilize, and so they can forge a common front ahead of the 2019 election. There have been talks of plans that the current chairman may be eased out and somebody else comes in to act in his capacity. We don't know how true that is. So we keep our fingers crossed as they unfold. We unveil them to you. Big thanks to Professor Mike Omogberali. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, my
Barrister Ibe Thomas, it's always a delight to have you here.
Thank you very much.
And to you at home, listening or watching, we appreciate you. We thank you for your commitment to Politics Today on independent television and radio. My name is Sonny Duke Okosu. Thanking you for staying with us. Wishing you a great weekend. Bye for now.